Commander Elias Trent had always believed that space exploration was as much about courage as it was about curiosity. He had walked across planets with strange skies, stepped on rocks older than any human city, and faced storms that would have destroyed most machines. Yet nothing in his years of experience had prepared him for Vathar. The planet was not hostile in the traditional sense. Its sky shimmered with pale green and amber clouds that shifted with a hypnotic grace. Forests stretched endlessly, their trees taller than skyscrapers, their trunks glowing faintly in the dark. The air was breathable, though it carried a metallic tang that made Elias cough the first few minutes. From a distance, it looked like paradise, but Elias had learned long ago that appearances were deceiving. He walked carefully over the soft moss that blanketed the ground, checking his scanner for any unusual readings. His crew had set up a temporary camp near a river of crystal-clear liquid, which reflected the alien sun like a mirror. "Commander," his second-in-command, Lieutenant Marla Chen, spoke softly over the comm. "My sensors are picking up something, movement but nothing physical, almost like a pulse but not biological in our sense." The air was strangely soothing, almost musical in a way he couldn't explain. He felt a ripple of unease, an instinct humans often relied on. As he moved deeper into the forest, he noticed shapes forming between the trees. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, shadows dancing over the luminescent moss. But then he saw her, the alien queen. Lyara stepped from behind a cluster of enormous ferns, her presence immediate and commanding. She was taller than any human, her form elegant and flowing, almost ethereal. Her skin shimmered with a subtle iridescence, and her eyes, large, luminous, and completely black, seemed to see straight through him. She raised a hand gracefully, and Elias froze, instinctively sensing that this gesture carried meaning beyond anything physical. "You are far from home, human," her voice echoed, not through the air, but inside his mind. Elias jumped back. The Vathari communicated telepathically, and the sudden intrusion into his thoughts was jarring. But he did not panic. Humans were adaptable. That was their strength. I am an explorer," he managed to reply aloud, unsure if she could hear it. "We mean no harm. We think independently. We choose carefully before we trust." The contact was gentle, but Elias felt a sudden surge of awareness, as if a tide of understanding was trying to pull him in. He struggled to resist. Wait, I'm not like your kind," he said, pushing back mentally. Humans were rare in that they could resist telepathic intrusion with sheer willpower. It was instinct, honed over generations of survival in unpredictable environments. Lyara's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Interesting. You are unlike any other I have encountered. Your mind is singular." "I am Commander Elias Trent," he said steadily. "I represent the Terran Exploration Corps. We explore, we observe, we learn, that is all." But she was intrigued, curious in a way that made him uneasy. Humans were often studied for their adaptability, but rarely understood. Here on Vathar, he was a puzzle, a mystery. "Why me?" he asked cautiously. "Why now?" "And because I wish to understand. You are under my protection, human, if you do not resist." Lyara did not speak aloud. Her thoughts brushed against his mind occasionally, gentle like a breeze, probing without pressure. Elias resisted, but also observed. He noticed patterns in her mind, her curiosity, her hesitation, her desire to connect. Humans often relied on observation to understand unknown species. He did the same. At one point, they arrived at a clearing. A strange, crystalline structure rose from the ground, spiraling toward the sky. Light refracted through it in dazzling colors. "This is the heart of Vathar," Lyara explained, her words resonating inside his mind. "It is the source of my people's collective awareness. Here, all Vathari are connected." "But does it control them?" She was trying to understand why humans were different, and why those differences could not be merged into her collective consciousness. "Commander," she said, gripping his wrist again, lightly this time, "I wish to reach your mind, but you resist. Why? You can learn from me, observe, understand, but you cannot take my mind." Shapes emerged, taller than the trees, composed of pure energy. Elias instinctively reached for his sidearm, but Lyara raised a hand. "Do not fire, they are not hostile yet. We must observe." He felt a thrill of recognition. Human instincts could still guide him even in an alien world. Lyara's voice, calm and commanding, reached him. "They sense the imbalance. You are different. They do not understand you, but I will protect you." But they also had the capacity to recognize honor, courage, and intent. And here in the heart of Vathar, he recognized those qualities in the Queen. As the sun, or what passed for a sun here, began to set, the light filtering through the alien forest painted everything in hues of gold and green. Elias and Lyra stood together, human and alien, observing the world around them. The planet was dangerous, unknown, and full of mysteries. Yet it was also breathtaking, alive in a way that made every human instinct hum with energy. For the first time, Elias realized that humans were not merely explorers. They were survivors, adapters, and innovators. Traits that had allowed them to thrive on Earth now gave them a rare kind of power in the universe. And the Queen, for all her authority and telepathic prowess, could not ignore this. Lyra released his wrist slowly, her touch lingering as if she could not resist the curiosity that burned within her. "Perhaps, in time, I will understand," she said. "Perhaps humans are more than I imagined." Humans had survived impossible odds before, and here on Vathar they would face new challenges, unknown, alien, and potentially deadly. But he knew one thing: humans were never easily understood, and that perhaps was their greatest strength. As the alien sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the glowing forest, Elias Trent felt a surge of determination. The Queen might wish to reach his mind to understand his thoughts, but he would remain human, independent, resilient, and ready for whatever came next. The silence after sunset on Vathar felt heavy, like the world itself was listening. The glowing forest dimmed but never fully darkened. Soft light pulsed through the tree veins, and the ground shimmered faintly beneath Elias Trent's boots. He stood near the crystalline structure, watching the alien horizon with alert eyes. Humans never truly relaxed in unknown territory. Lyra stood beside him, her tall form calm yet alert. Her presence sent faint waves of thought across the clearing. Elias could feel them brushing against his mind, never forcing entry, only observing. He appreciated that restraint, even if he did not fully trust it. Beyond the clearing, something shifted, not the gentle movement of wind or creatures, but a deeper vibration. Elias felt it through his chest before his scanners reacted. "Queen," he said quietly, keeping his voice steady, "something's wrong." The air seemed to tighten as she connected to the greater awareness of her people. "You are correct," she replied inside his mind. "There is disturbance beyond the outer reach." "Marla, do you copy?" "That doesn't sound friendly." They looked like walking voids, swallowing light around them. The Guardians reacted instantly, releasing beams of focused energy. The beams struck the shapes but passed through them as if they were mist. The shadows did not slow. "They ignore direct force," Elias said quickly. "They're analyzing." Humans knew adaptation better than anyone. Elias' mind raced. If they are hive-based, they predict patterns, they expect unity. "We make mistakes and turn them into weapons." The data scrolled fast. "They're emitting a suppression field," he said, trying to silence neural signals. The pressure in his head increased, like something was trying to press inward. He clenched his jaw and focused on breathing. Human minds were trained to resist panic. "They're trying to link with us," he said, "or override." "Because I don't let them." Elias felt it too, but it slid off, unable to find a grip. "No," Elias said firmly. The shadow reacted, it pulsed, adjusting. Elias stepped forward slightly, raising his hand, not in surrender but defiance. "You can't understand us," he said, "and that's your weakness." The shadow shifted its attention fully to Elias. Pressure increased sharply, like a storm pressing inward. Elias' vision blurred for a moment. He thought of Earth, of noise, conflict, laughter, loss, of millions of voices never agreeing and surviving anyway. The pressure cracked. The shadow recoiled. Lyra felt it and stared in shock. "You disrupted it." "We're immune in a way, you're not." She made a decision no Vathari queen had ever made. She severed the link. Across the forest, the glowing guardians flickered, then stabilized, each acting on instinct rather than shared command. Their movements became less perfect but more unpredictable. The shadows faltered. Elias smiled grimly. "That's it. They can't predict you anymore." The battle spread across the forest. Humans from Elias' crew joined the fight, using improvised tactics, flares, noise bursts, and erratic movement. No two soldiers acted the same way. The silence walkers struggled. Their precision failed against chaos. Elias coordinated through simple voice commands, not neural links. "Move now, fall back, split left. Think for yourself." It unraveled, dissolving into nothing. The others followed. One by one they withdrew, retreating back into the void from which they came. Silence returned. Real silence this time. Elias dropped to one knee, breathing hard. The forest slowly calmed. The guardians dimmed, exhausted but alive. Lyra approached him slowly. She knelt, something no Vathari ruler had ever done before another being. "You saved us," she said quietly. Elias shook his head. "We saved each other. You do not resist connection because you fear it. You resist because you choose it." And so had the queen. For the first time, she did not try to reach into a human mind. She reached out beside one instead. The night after the battle felt unreal. Vathar's glowing forest pulsed softly, as if the planet itself was breathing relief. Commander Elias Trent stood at the edge of the crystalline heart, staring into the pulsating light. It had survived the attack intact, but he knew the Silence Walkers would return. They always did. Lyra stood beside him, taller than the surrounding trees, her iridescent skin reflecting the soft light. She had spent the past hours observing him, learning, trying to understand why humans could do what her people could not. Elias could feel her thoughts brushing against his mind again, but this time there was no probing, no demand. Only curiosity, respect, and an unspoken question. "You did what my people could not," she said softly, voice resonating in his mind. "You resisted, adapted, and overcame. Why?" "By refusing to surrender control. That's why we're still here." Dozens of shadows slithered across the forest, feeding on the fear and uncertainty of anything in their path. "Queen," Elias said urgently, "we need a plan. We can't fight them head-on. They'll adapt and win. We make the unpredictable our weapon. We make them think there is no pattern. That's the only way to defeat a collective like this." Lyra extended her hand toward the heart of Vathar, her energy flowing outward. "We will assist, but not as one," she said. "Individually, you must guide them to act without a hive. It will be challenging." Their energy pulses reached out, seeking to dominate any mind they encountered. Humans flinched, but Elias raised his hand. "Focus. Don't think like a group. Think like one mind at a time. Move unpredictably. Watch each other's back, but act independently." They used traps, makeshift explosives, and flashes of light to disorient the shadows. The Silence Walkers hesitated. They adjusted their movements, but the humans did not follow patterns the hive could predict. Lyra directed her guardians in a similar fashion. They moved in random sequences, occasionally helping a human or intercepting a shadow, never perfectly synchronized. The queen's energy pulses were controlled but chaotic in their timing, a human-inspired improvisation. Elias watched with satisfaction. The enemy faltered, unable to calculate every possible outcome. Each human action was a variable the Silence Walkers could not anticipate. One shadow surged toward the heart, threatening the collective consciousness of the Vathari. Elias sprinted toward it, activating a compact device designed to amplify human unpredictability. A pulse of energy radiated outward, scattering the shadow and causing it to falter. "Keep moving," he shouted. "Keep them guessing, don't hesitate, think fast." Humans climbed trees, darted between guardians, and lured the shadows into traps. Their improvisation was unpredictable, their mistakes often turning into advantages. Lyra observed, awe-filling her consciousness. She had ruled her people for centuries, but she had never faced a force that could not be overcome by her hive. Humans did not follow logic, they created it. Every choice they made was a test, a challenge, a new variable the Silence Walkers could not calculate. A massive shadow turned directly toward Elias. Its energy pressed against his mind, a wave of cold and control. He felt fear, but did not give in. Humans had fear, yes, but they used it. He imagined Earth, the struggles of his childhood, the wars his ancestors had survived, the countless times humanity had been underestimated and prevailed. "Not today," he muttered and darted to the side. He threw a device at the shadow, creating a burst of light and sound that caused it to stumble. In that instant, a group of humans attacked from different angles, striking it with improvised weapons. The shadow screamed, not with sound but with pressure. It began to collapse inward, unraveling under the weight of unpredictability. Lyra reached toward it instinctively but stopped, realizing that Elias and his humans were the true weapon. She had underestimated this form of strength, chaotic, emotional, unpredictable, yet precise in its own way. The Silence Walkers hesitated. Another wave advanced, but the humans' movements continued to frustrate them. There was no pattern to anticipate, no hive link to exploit. Elias moved among his team, coordinating with words and gestures, not commands or telepathy. "Left flank," improvised. "Split now," he shouted. Marla tossed a flare toward a shadow, drawing it into the light. Another soldier triggered a makeshift trap, sending another falling into a pit. Shadows collapsed unpredictably. The forest echoed with energy pulses, human shouts, and the strange hum of Vathar's guardians. Elias realized that this was the human's advantage, unpredictability combined with courage. They did not rely on perfect synchronization. They relied on creativity, intuition, and choice. They were messy, chaotic, and alive, and that was a force the Silence Walkers could not match. As the final wave approached, Elias saw one massive shadow moving directly toward the heart. Lyra looked ready to intervene, but he shook his head. "We handle this." "Let us show you." One distracted it from the left, another from above, while Elias approached from the front. He activated a final burst of energy that fractured the shadow's structure. It collapsed, dissolving into nothingness. Silence fell across the forest. The air shimmered, slowly returning to its calm luminescence. The guardians flickered, exhausted but alive. The heart of Vathar pulsed steadily, unharmed. Lyra approached Elias, her expression filled with awe. She reached out, lightly touching his shoulder. "I understand now. Your kind does not simply survive. You endure, you fight, you adapt, you choose. That is remarkable. And yet you fought for others, not just yourselves. But I have never seen a being who can resist, adapt, and inspire simultaneously. You are extraordinary, human." But here, facing a threat that could erase minds, humanity's true strength shone, resilience, creativity, and the power of choice. "You could have joined them," Lyra continued. "You could have given in to their control, surrendered your mind, and become part of a pattern, yet you did not. Why? You can learn from us, work with us, but you cannot take our minds. That's our strength. Chaos is a weapon. Fear is not control. Choice is power." The Silence Walkers were gone for now, but he knew they would return. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, and humans would face them all. But he was confident. Humanity's greatest strength was not in technology alone, or in numbers, or even in skill. It was in their minds, their hearts, and their unyielding independence. Lyra extended her hand toward him. He hesitated briefly. Human instinct had taught him caution, but then he reached out. Their hands touched lightly, a gesture of mutual respect, not domination. "You may not reach my mind," he said, "but we can reach understanding." Humans had survived countless worlds, countless threats. They were not perfect. They were not predictable. But they endured. And here on Vathar, they had shown once again why humans were extraordinary. As the alien night deepened, the humans, guided by Elias, began fortifying their position, learning from Lyra and her people. The forest was quiet now, but alive, humming with energy and promise. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but humanity had already proven it could face the impossible and prevail. Elias took a deep breath and looked around at the survivors, human and Vathari alike. "We're not just explorers," he said quietly. "We're survivors. And we always will be." But more importantly, Elias knew that humanity had left an indelible mark, not just on Vathar, but on the galaxy itself. Freedom, choice, and the human spirit, the galaxy had never seen anything like it, and it never would forget.